students, now let's start our new chapter, Python functions. In this session, you are going to learn about functions and its types, defining and calling a function, passing parameters and arguments in functions, anonymous functions, and the return statement. So first let us see about what is functions, why we are using functions in a program. What is the purpose of using functions in a program? Let us see that. Okay. Functions are basic building blocks that can be used to perform a particular task repeatedly. Which means in your real life, if you want to perform a particular work for multiple times, it's very difficult for you. Similarly, in a program, if you want to execute set of statements again and again repeatedly, it is very difficult. If you are writing the same code again and again in a program, what will be happen? For that, it will take more time and more memory space to store that program. So to avoid these drawbacks, we can use functions. By using functions, you have to write the set of statements within the function. If you want to again execute that statements, you just make call to that function. Whenever you want to execute that same set of statements repeatedly again and again, you can call that function. Okay. Because of using functions, the program take less time to execution and less memory space to store that program. Okay. So what are the advantages of using functions? It avoids repetition and makes high degree of code reusing. Which means you don't need to write the same code again and again repeatedly, and you can call the same function for many times in your program. If your same set of statements comes again and again, you can reuse that codes. Okay. Next point, it provides better modularity for your application, which means functions are used to divide a large code into module, so we can easily debug and maintain the code. You can divide a larger program into smaller modules, which means the larger program is divided into smaller subprograms. That subprograms are called as modules. That modules are nothing but functions. Okay. So let us see the definition of function. Okay. Functions are nothing but a group of related statements that perform a specific task. Or you can say this, functions are named blocks of code that are designed to do specific job. When you want to perform a particular task that you have defined in the function, you call the name of the function responsible for it. Okay. If you want to execute a particular task again and again repeatedly, you can create one function and call that function. Okay. So now let us see the types of functions. The functions are divided into 4 types. What are they? User-defined functions, built-in functions, lambda functions, recursion function. What do you mean by user-defined function? A function that you define yourself in a program is known as user-defined function. Okay. You can give any name to a user-defined function, but you cannot use Python keywords as a function name. Okay. And what about built-in functions? Functions that are inbuilt within Python, that functions are called built-in functions. Okay. Next, lambda functions. What do you mean by lambda functions? It is also known as anonymous functions. These are unnamed functions. Okay. And next, recursion functions means what? A function that call itself is known as recursive function. Okay. These 4 types of functions are very important. Now you are going to learn about these functions in briefly. Okay. So in this session, we are going to study about user-defined functions and lambda functions, which means anonymous functions. In the next session, we will discuss about built-in functions and recursive functions. Okay. So now let us see about user-defined functions. How will you define a function? How will you define user-defined function? Let us see that. Okay. So first see the syntax. Here first you have to write def. The function blocks are always begin with the keyword def. Okay. And next function name. You can give any name to a function. For example, area, sum, a, b, c, d. You can give any name to a function, but don't use Python keywords as function name, okay? And next, parenthesis. Within the parenthesis, you have to give parameters and arguments, okay? What do you mean by parameters? Parameters are variables, okay? And arguments are what? Values. So parameters or arguments should be placed within this parenthesis when you define a function, okay? And then colon symbol. In the syntax, square brackets are given, but it is optional, okay? And the next block of statements, you can write your statements here. What do you mean by block? A block is one or more lines of code grouped together so that they are treated as one big sequence of statements while execution. In C, C++, Java languages, we are giving curly braces to define the set of statements, which means a block. But in Python, block of codes are written with indentation. You have to give same amount of space to all the statements in a block, okay? And what do you mean by nested block? A block is defined within the block is called nested block. How will you indent the nested block statements? When the first block statement is indented by a single tab space, the second block statement is indented by double tab spaces. Okay. Next, return statement. You can write the return statement with the expressions or without expression. If you are giving expression in the return statement, it evaluates that expressions and returns the result to the user, which means to the programmer, okay? But if you are not giving any expression in the return statement, it will return the result as none, okay? So now let's see the example to how to define a function. This is the example program. First write the def. Next function name is given, that is hello. And next within the parenthesis, parameters and arguments are not passed. See the colon. And within that function, statement is given. That statement is print hello Python. And in the next line, return statement is given. So what is the output of this code? Here no other parameters, no arguments are given. But in print statement, one string is given, that is hello Python. In this code, function is defined but function call is not given. So when you calling the hello function, you will get the output hello Python in the output screen, okay? So now you know how to define a function, but how will you call the function? Let us see that, okay? See here, the same code is given again, but one more line is there. What is that? Function call, but that is defined within print function. So how will you call the function? By using function name. You just write the function name and give the parenthesis. If you declare a parameters in function definition, you can give the arguments, which means values in the function call, okay? But in this code, we have not given any parameters, so we no need to give arguments here, okay? So when you run this code, you will get the output hello Python, and see the return statement, there is no expression is given. If expression is not given in the return statement, then you will get the output none for that statement, okay? So this is none. So you will get the output hello Python none. Next, let us see the advantages of user-defined functions. What are the advantages of functions? Let us see that. Functions help us to divide a program into modules. This makes the code easier to manage. A larger program is divided into modules, which means subprograms. So one module can be managed by a small team. So this makes the code easier to manage, and it implements code reuse. Every time you need to execute a sequence of statements, all you need to do is to call the function, which means if you want to execute the same set of statements again and again repeatedly, you don't need to retype again and again that statements. You just make a call to that function, so that statements will be executed. And functions allows us to change functionality easily, and different programmers can work on different functions. We can change the functionality of functions easily, and so different programmers can work on different function. And next let us see about passing parameters in functions. So what do you mean by parameters? Parameters are the variables used in a function definition, which means when you define a function, you have to give the parameters within the parenthesis. Okay. So it is also called as variables. If you want to add more than one parameter, you have to give comma between parameters. Okay. So let us see one example. Okay. One example is given. Here def is a keyword and next one function is created. What is the function name? Area, and within the parenthesis two parameters are given. What are they? W, H. To separate these parameters, comma is given between them. And next return statement is given. In the return statement, one expression is given. See there, W into H. You have to evaluate this expression and print the result in the output screen. Okay. And next statement is given, print statement. Within the print statement, we are calling the function by function name. Function name is what? Area. So within the print statement, we are given area. Within the parenthesis, arguments are given, which means these are the values of parameters W and H. So the parameters are defined in the function definition and arguments are defined in the function call. Okay. Here W is called width and H is called height. So when we calling this function, it returns the product of width and height as output. Okay. So you have to pass 3 and 5 values to the parameters W and H. So see the return statement. Calculate the product of these two parameters. What is the value of W? 3. And what is the value of H? 5. So you have to multiply these two values, 3 into 5. What is the result? 15. So you will get the output 15 in the output screen. Okay. So these are the parameters and these are the arguments. So what is the definition of arguments? Arguments are the values we pass to the function parameters. Okay. So there are 4 types of function arguments. What are they? Recurred arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments and variable length arguments. So we can pass 4 types of arguments to parameters. What are they? Recurred arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments and variable length arguments. Okay. So let us discuss them one by one. Okay. So what do you mean by recurred arguments? Recurred arguments are arguments that must pass to the function. Note this point, you must pass to the function. Recurred arguments are the arguments passed to a function in correct position and order. You have to pass these arguments in the proper order. Okay. Here the number of arguments in the function call should match exactly with the function definition, which means the number of arguments should be matched with the number of parameters. See this example. In this code, one function is created, that is print string. Within that function, some statements are given. Example, recurred arguments, str and return statement is also given. But if you are calling print string, you will get the output syntax error. Why? Because in function definition, you created one parameter, that is str. But when you are calling this print string function, you have not passed any arguments within the parenthesis. See here. In the recurred arguments, you have to must pass these arguments within the function call. And the number of parameters and number of arguments should be matched. So you must give the value to that parameter, which means you must give the argument to that parameter. Here you passed str parameter in the function definition, but in the calling function you are not given the argument to that parameter, so it will displays the syntax error. So to avoid this, within the print string function call you have to add arguments. If you are giving welcome string within the function called print string, the output will be displayed like this, which means example required arguments and welcome. Okay, so this is the required argument. In this required arguments you have to must pass the argument to that parameter, otherwise you will get the syntax error. And next let us see about keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are arguments that can be called by their name. Okay, keyword arguments will invoke the function after the parameters are recognized by their parameter names. So the keyword arguments can be called by their name. Okay, and the value of the keyword argument is matched with the parameter name, and so one can also put arguments in improper order, which means you cannot need to pass the arguments in proper order. Here you can pass the arguments to parameters improper order, but in required arguments you must pass the required arguments in correct proper order. Okay, but when you use keyword arguments in a function call, the caller identifies the arguments by the parameter name, and you can give this keyword arguments in improper order. Let's see one example. In this example, one function is created, that is print data. Within that function, name parameter is passed, and after that statements are given. That means print statements, example 1 keyword arguments, print name and return statement, and next function call we are calling print data function. See here, name is equal to Sean. The keyword arguments are recognized by the parameter names. So here the parameter is name and arguments is what? Sean. So you will get the output example 1 keyword arguments and name is equal to what? What is the name? Sean. So it will be printed on the output screen. See another one example. The same code is given again, but in the calling function name 1 is equal to Sean is given. Okay, the parameter name is what? Name, but in the function call within the print data name 1 is given. We have not created the parameter name 1, we have created the parameter name, so it will produces the syntax error in the output screen. Okay, because these keyword arguments are recognized by the parameter name. Here the parameter name is what? Name, but in the calling function here given name 1, so it will produce a syntax error. Here you have to give name is equal to Sean. Okay, and next let us see another one program. Here the function name is print data. Within the function name 2 parameters are declared. What are the name? Age. And next some statements are given. Print statements, print example 3 keyword arguments, print name and print age. And next return statement. Next function call. In the function call we have given the arguments to that parameters, which means age is equal to 25, name is equal to Sean. See here the arguments are not given in proper order here. See the function definition. Within the function definition we have given first name and next age, but in calling function first age is given and next name is given. So here the arguments are passed in the improper order. Okay, so we can give the keyword arguments in improper order also. Okay, so you will get the output example 3 keyword arguments and next name is equal to what? Sean, and age is equal to what? 25. You will get the output like this. Okay, next let us see about default arguments. In Python, the default argument is an argument that takes a default value if no value is provided in the function call. Which means in case the user does not want to provide a value for parameter, default arguments will be taken by the Python interpreter during function call. Here an assignment operator equal to is used to give default value to the parameter. You have to assign default value within the function definition. Okay. Let's see one example. Here one function is created, that is print info. Within that function name is given and default argument is given. What is that? Salary is equal to 3500. Here 3500 is a argument and salary is a parameter. And the next statements, print statements, print name, print salary, and next return. Next we are calling the print info function. Print info, within the parenthesis name is given, money. See here in function definition two parameters are given. What are they? Name and salary. For salary parameter the default argument is given, that is 3500. But in the calling function only one argument is given, money, that is for name parameter. So you will get the output, name is equal to money, salary is equal to 3500. How will you get this output? Because in the calling function your name is given but you are not given your salary. So if you are not giving your salary, the Python interpreter takes the default argument value from the function definition during function call. Okay. But suppose in the calling function you are giving your name and salary, which means if your name is Ram and your salary is 2000, you are giving the details in the calling function, then you will get the output, name is equal to Ram and salary is equal to 2000. So default argument is what? If you are not declaring any arguments to that parameter, the Python interpreter takes that default argument during function call. Okay. So this is about default arguments. Next let us see about variable length arguments. In a function, if you want to pass more arguments, then what you will do? See here, in this example, function name is sum. Within that function, x, y, z parameters are defined. And in the print statement, you have to print sum of three numbers, that is x plus y plus z. But in the function call, sum, within the parenthesis, 5 values are given. In the function definition, only 3 parameters are given. But in the calling function, 5 arguments are given. So for this code, you will get the output syntax error, because you have given extra 2 arguments. Okay. So you will get the syntax error. But if you want to add more arguments, then what you will do? You can use variable length arguments. Okay. The variable length arguments are used to pass more arguments in the function. Okay. You have to define this variable length arguments by asterisk symbol. Okay. Let's see the syntax of variable length arguments. Def function name, within the parenthesis asterisk symbol is given and arguments are also given. If you want to add more arguments, then you have to use this asterisk symbol and write the arguments after that. Okay. And next function body, next return statement. Let's see one example. In this example, print numbers is the function name and next variable length arguments are given in the parenthesis with the asterisk symbol. In the next line, for loop is given for n in numbers and then print n, you have to print the n and then return statement. Now you have to invoke the print numbers function, printing 2 values. So you have to printing 2 values in the output screen. When you calling this print numbers function, the 1, 2 values will be printed on the output screen And next again printing 3 values. If you want to give 3 values, again call that function print numbers. Within that pass 3 arguments 10, 20, 30. So it will be printed on the output screen. Okay. In this program you can change the print numbers as print names, and for numbers you can give the names such as Mala, Kala, Bala as your own wish. Okay. You will get the output for this code printing 3 names Mala, Kala, Bala. Okay. In variable length arguments, we can pass the arguments using 2 methods. What are they? Non-keyword variable arguments, keyword variable arguments. Okay. Next let us see about anonymous functions. What is anonymous function? In Python, anonymous function is a function that is defined without a name. So, if a function is defined without a name, that is called anonymous functions. In Python, normal functions are defined using def keyword. Anonymous functions are defined using the lambda keyword. So, these anonymous functions are also called as lambda functions. Lambda functions are also called as anonymous functions. Okay. This lambda function can take any number of arguments and must return one value in the form of expression, which means it takes list of arguments and one expression is also there. Based on that expression, it returns the result. Okay. Lambda function can only access global variables and variables in its parameter list. So, lambda function can only access global variables in its parameter list, not from outside. It will access only within its parameter list. What is the use of lambda or anonymous function? Lambda function is mostly used for creating small and one-time anonymous function. So, if you want to create small and one-time function, this anonymous function or lambda function is used. Okay. Lambda functions are mainly used in combination with functions like filter, map and reduce. So it can be used in filter function and map function, reduce function. Okay. This is the syntax of anonymous function, lambda, and next write the arguments and give the expression. When you are defining lambda function, you must give the expression. Okay. So this is the example program. This sum is a parameter and is equal to next lambda. Next see the arguments. Arguments 1 and arguments 2, they are separated by comma, and next write colon. Next give the expression. Expression is what? Argument 1 plus argument 2. You have to add argument 1 value and argument 2 value. Okay. And in the next line, print the sum is, you have to give the values 30, 40, 30 for argument 1 and 40 for argument 2. So 30 plus 40 what? 70. So in the output, you will get the sum is 70. In the next statement, print the sum is sum minus 30, 40. So you have to add these two values, minus 30 for argument 1 and 40 for argument 2. So minus 30 plus 40 is what? 10. So it will be printed on the output screen. So the sum is 70, the sum is 10. This result will be displayed in the output screen. So this is about anonymous function. Next see about return statement. The return statement causes your function to exit and returns a value to its caller. The point of functions in general is to take inputs and return something. So this return statement returns the result to the caller. Okay. So the return statement is used to when a function is ready to return a value to its caller. So only one return statement is executed at runtime, even though the function contains multiple return statements. If the function contains multiple return statements, only one return statement will be executed at runtime. Okay. It returns a value to the calling function. The return statement is used to return a value to the caller. Okay. And this is the syntax of return and expression list. In this expression list, you can give the expression. The expression gets evaluated and value is returned. If there is no expression is present in the return statement, then the function will return none object. Okay, which means it displays none in the output screen. Okay, let us see one example. One programming code is given. Here one function is created, that is user underscore apps, and parameter n is given within the parenthesis. After that, if else condition is given. One condition is given, that is n is greater than or equal to 0. If n value is greater than or equal to 0, then it returns the n value in the output screen. Otherwise, if this n is not greater than or not equal to 0, then it return the result minus n, which means negative of n. So here you have to enter the input value. Okay, so x is a variable, int input enter a number, you have to enter the value. Okay, if you are giving the number 25, check the condition. N is equal to 25, so 25 is greater than or equal to 0. 25 is greater than 0, so this condition is true. So it returns the value of n. What is the n value? 25. So it returns the n value in the output screen, that is 25. And see the next output. If you are giving a value minus 25 for n, then check the condition. N is equal to minus 25 and minus 25 is greater than or equal to 0. Check the condition. Minus 25 is not greater than 0 or not equal to 0. So this condition becomes false. So you have to return the value minus n. So what is the value of n now? Minus 25. So you have to return the value of minus n. So minus n means what? Minus into minus 25. Because n value is what? Minus 25. So you have to return the value minus n. So minus into minus 25. Then what is the result? 25. Minus into minus plus. So 25. So you will get the output for this code 25. Okay. So this is about return statement. Okay. Thank you, students.